Welcome to Whispers of the Night, where lanterns glow softly and stories drift like mist across the hills. Tonight, we step quietly into a world where fog carries forgotten truths, and silence is more than the absence of sound. It is a place to rest. Let the day fall behind you now. Let your breath deepen and feel the hush of the night draw near. Here, you don't need to understand everything. You only need to listen and let the story carry you. So close your eyes and follow the light even as it dims into the dreaming quiet ahead. And now, the lantern dims. Its light, like your thoughts, flickers softer, then slower, then still. The story has faded into the folds of sleep, and you are floating in its afterglow, wrapped in fog, rocked by silence, held by the hush. Between dreams, there is no need to wake, no need to follow the path back. You've already arrived in that quiet place where time dissolves, and morning is a far and distant thing. Let your breath move gently, like wind through willow leaves, like ripples beneath a boat that's come to rest. Every part of you, mind, body, memory, has permission to let go now. If sleep has already taken you, stay. If you are still listening, you are only steps away. The voice will fade, the world will dim, and you will be held by the dark in the kindest way. Tonight, you are part of the story, the quiet between the pages. So let the stars carry you, let the silence cradle you, and let yourself drift wherever the dreaming night wishes to take you. Good night from all of us, here beneath the whispering dark. From Whispers of the Night, sleep well. A lantern ride through foggy hills. The lantern in your hand. You walk beneath dripping trees, your lantern casting a circle of golden hush. With every breath, fog curls like silk around your thoughts. This soft light leads you inward, toward hills that hold old stories. Let your mind begin its quiet journey, where even silence remembers. The fog has a way of softening the world. It does not fall like rain. It arrives like a memory, gradual, unannounced, and strangely familiar. Tonight, it weaves through the trees in slow, trailing curls. The forest is hushed. Each drop shines for a moment, then vanishes into the quiet. You walk slowly, your boots pressing into the damp earth, your thoughts moving even slower. The lantern in your hand glows warmly, the flame inside flickering in rhythm with your breath. It is a small light, but it feels steady. You do not need to see far, only what lies within its soft golden circle, just enough to guide each step. Stories, you can almost hear them murmuring, not in words, but in a kind of feeling, a presence, quiet and vast. Trees are good at keeping time, not by clocks, but by rings, by seasons, by the way their leaves respond to light. You pass a beech tree with smooth silver bark, and for a moment you pause. Your hand brushes the trunk. It is cool to the touch, solid, patient. Trees, you remember, are some of the oldest living things on Earth. A bristle-coned pine in California is nearly 5,000 years old. It has stood through storms, droughts, the rise and fall of empires. To a tree like that, of life passing another, there's something comforting in that. You keep walking, and the fog thickens. It coils around your legs like a low tide, but instead of pulling you down, it lifts your mind. You begin to think about light, the kind you carry, and the kind that fills the universe. Light, in its most basic form, is energy, a wave, a particle, a mystery. The flame inside your lantern is a kind of conversation between fuel, oxygen, and heat. It dances, not to be seen, but to be understood. It tells you where you are. It keeps the shadows at bay, but it also reminds you how much of the world remains hidden, because fog, like memory, obscures as much as it reveals. You can see the lantern's glow reflected in the droplets around you, suspended in air like tiny floating mirrors. Each droplet bends the light, scatters it, wraps it around corners. You are surrounded by rainbows you cannot see. That's refraction, you think softly. A bending, a warping, light's quiet response to the world it moves through. You remember learning that fog is just a cloud near the ground, a cloud that touched the earth and decided to stay, made of millions of water droplets so small they hang suspended in the air. The science of fog is simple. Humidity changes how sound travels. It muffles footsteps. It makes the world feel slower, dreamier, as if time itself is wrapped in gauze. Your mind drifts to the ancient use of lanterns, not just for vision, but for meaning. Long ago, travelers carried lanterns to find their way home. Ships used them to signal across dark waters. In some cultures, lanterns were placed in windows for spirits to find their way. light became a guide, not just for the body, but for the soul. And even now, as your flame sways gently inside its glass chamber, you feel the quiet comfort of direction, even if you don't yet know where the path leads. The trail curves, slightly moss-covered and leaning, but still standing. You stop beside it. There are no words carved into the wood, only a small painted symbol, a circle with a dot in the center. It feels like an eye, or a sun, or simply a reminder that you are not lost, only wandering. The air smells of earth and distant rain. Somewhere, an owl calls, once soft and low. You wonder about its wings, silent in flight. That's due to the structure of their feathers. You recall, designed to reduce turbulence, to muffle movement. Science, wrapped in feathers, the world is full of tiny, thoughtful miracles. You sit for a moment beneath an old alder tree. Its roots rise slightly from the earth, forming a cradle. You lean back and breathe deeply. Around you, fog swirls and settles, as if it too wants to rest. You think about the way your breath becomes visible in the cold. Condensation, warm meeting, cool your body, creating clouds in miniature, even in stillness. You are part of the weather above. You can just make out the outline of branches, fingers reaching into the sky. The stars are hidden tonight, but you know they are there. The light from some of them began traveling long before this forest ever grew, and still, it arrives after thousands of years to gently touch the tops of trees and vanish into fog. You close your eyes and feel the weight of that thought settle across your chest like a warm blanket. How much of what we see is only the surface of something older, deeper, wider than we know? Science offers answers, but also better questions. What is light, really? A wave, a photon, a ripple in the fabric of reality? And why does it make you feel less alone? You open your eyes slowly. The lantern still glows, but now the fog feels less like an obstacle and more like a companion. It walks with you. It reminds you that you don't need to see everything clearly to keep moving. You rise and continue along the path. The trail slopes upward now, toward a place where the mist seems to gather more thickly. Your lantern flickers gently, not from wind, but from the rhythm of your breath. Slow, steady, deepening dot. And as you walk, your mind drifts toward what lies ahead, toward the stories hidden beneath this fog, the lost maps, the faded paths, and the quiet way memory leaves its shape in the land. Fog paths and vanishing maps. The trail ahead bends with time, and signs are worn smooth by wind. Traders once passed here, dreaming of spices, salt, and unknown shores, but the maps they followed were full of mystery, of margins marked with myth. Tonight, your path becomes a story too gentle, unfinished, and drifting. The path curves gently beneath your feet, just enough to disappear into fog with every few steps. You can't see far ahead, but there is a comfort in that. The unknown does not feel dangerous here, only softened, like ink spread too thin on an old page. Each step you take is quiet, and each sound vanishes into the mist almost before it begins. You are walking where others once walked, long before you. Their footsteps have faded, but the idea of them lingers. Traders wrapped in wool and oilskin, carrying salt and silk, wool and amber, letters and promises. They followed foot-worn trails that wound through hills and forests like veins through a living body. Their maps were not like yours. Their world had edges. You pause by an old wooden signpost. The letters are worn to near nothing, just vague grooves where meaning used to be. Time has softened them, smoothed their urgency. It points in three directions, one path rising, one falling, and one slipping sideways into thicker fog. And somewhere in your mind, a memory of old maps stirs. There was a time when maps were more poetry than precision, before satellites, before compasses were common. Mapmakers drew what they knew and imagined the rest. Oceans were left blank, or filled with curling waves and tiny galleons. And in the corners of these maps, they left warnings written in delicate, curling script. Here be dragons, not as threats, but as mysteries. Places where no one had yet returned with the truth. You walk on, and the fog feels like uncharted territory itself. Soft white space with no fixed borders. It blurs trees into suggestion, stones into ghostly shapes, like the cartographers of old. Your mind begins to fill in what is not clearly seen. Is that a path curving to the right, or only a shadow of your own curiosity? In this misty silence, you start to think about how we understand space. Not just the space between places, but the space between knowing and not knowing. The way we trace our lives across unseen surfaces, looking for direction. A map, you remember, is not the land itself. It's a translation, a language of lines and symbols, a story about where we are and how to get somewhere else. But the world does not always follow straight lines, especially not in the fog here. The landscape folds in quiet ways. Hills roll like gentle waves. Paths vanish and reappear. You wonder how those early map makers felt when the trail turned to marsh or disappeared into cloud. They used the stars when they could, or trees shaped by the wind, or stones stacked to mark a way. And sometimes they just listened to the wind, to the instincts of their horses, to the silence that told them when to stop, when to turn back. You pass a large, lichen-covered rock. It stands like a sentinel, not a marker made by hands, but one left by glacier and time, a kind of natural signpost shaped over thousands of years. Geologists call these erratics, boulders carried far from their origin by ice. And now, here it sits, like punctuation at the edge of your current sentence. You reach out and touch it. The rock is cold, slightly damp, a timeline in stone, granite formed deep in the earth, lifted, broken, carried, and placed. It reminds you that movement does not always follow intention. Sometimes it follows pressure, temperature, time. You step onward, and as the path rises slightly, the fog thins for a moment. In the space between clouds, you glimpse the shape of the land, hills rolling outward like frozen waves, folding and unfolding with gentle grace. This land was once the bottom of a sea. You can almost feel it, how it held water. Light, the bones of fish. Now, it holds only stories and moss. You remember that trade once moved along these routes, not by compass alone, but by memory. Merchants memorized distances by the length of a song. Walk 2 verses past the lone oak tree, then turn when the hill sings with wind. Navigation was sensory, not symbolic. It lived in the body, in the rhythm of breath, the pressure of soil, the curve of the sun across one's cheek. Some carried tokens to help them remember: shells, pebbles, bits of colored thread. These were their maps in miniature, not drawn, but felt. You find yourself wondering, what do we carry now? Smartphones with glowing grids, maps that stretch across oceans with a pinch of your fingers, direction that arrives in a voice, to clean, to certain. There is little room for wonder in a blinking arrow, and yet here, with the fog pressing gently, in you remember what it means to not know, to let the path find you rather than the other way around, to become like a raindrop in a stream, guided not by destination but by the shape of the land. That's how rivers find the sea, and maybe it's how you find your rest. Your mind drifts to the edge of old knowledge, to explorers who mapped what they could and invented the rest, to Ptolemy, who drew a world from calculations and fragments, to Polynesian wayfinders who read the sea with their hands, 2 children tracing finger trails through fogged up windows. You walk slower now, not out of weariness, but reverence for the idea that the world is still not fully known, that mystery is not an absence, but a presence waiting to be felt. The trail dips downward. You follow, letting gravity choose. The fog thickens again, and your lantern flickers slightly, but it still shines, not to illuminate the whole path, only the next few steps, and sometimes that is enough. Ahead, you hear something soft, not words, not wind, perhaps bells, or water, or memory itself, ringing gently in the distance. You walk, and what stories still wait to be found, where no map dares to go. Hearthstones and hidden voices. You find a low stone cottage with moss softening the roof like sleep. Inside once lived laughter, tears, the scent of stew and peat smoke. Now, only the hush remains, but hush has its own history. Sit by the cold hearth a while, and let the past whisper you to rest. The fog parts slowly, as if sensing something still and sacred ahead. There are tucked beneath a shoulder of hill is a small stone cottage, worn and weathered. Its roof, a patchwork of green dot moss, grows thick. Across the shingles, draping it in a soft hush, it looks as if the earth is gently trying to reclaim it, not with force, but with quiet patience. You pause at the threshold, lantern in hand, and feel something shift in the air. A pause in the wind, a hush that seems to hold its breath. The door creaks open with the weight of years. Inside, the cottage is empty but not silent. The kind of not quite silence that wraps old places. Remember, you step inside slowly, letting the fog follow you like a shawl. The walls are stone, thick and cool to the touch. The scent of soot and time. You sit before it, the way someone else once did, maybe hundreds of nights ago. A curl of peat smoke must have once risen here, carrying the warmth of stew. The scratch of wool drying near the flames. The sound of low voices telling stories meant for winter nights. Now, only your breath fills the space, but still it feels lived in, as if the walls themselves have memorized the rhythm of fire and laughter. The hearth. Fire has shaped the way people lived, gathered, and survived. Long before ovens, before electricity, before buildings even had chimneys, there was the hearth. The first fires were outside, circled with stone, and then brought into shelters made of bone and hide. Later, they glowed in roundhouses and cottages like this one, casting light that flickered on faces and ceilings made of thatch dot. The hearthstone itself was more than stone. It marked the heart of a home, a word that in many old languages shares a root with warmth. From this single spot, heat radiated outward, bread baked, stories unfolded. Sleep was taken in the safety of its glow, even in silence. The hearth seemed to hold the center of things. You let your fingers graze the rim of the cold hearth. It's pitted and worn smooth in places. From years of use, you wonder, who sat here last? Who stirred the pot? Who held their hands close to the flame and whispered prayers into the rising smoke? In some cultures, Vesta guarded the sacred flame. In Celtic lands, hearth fires were never allowed to die without ceremony. To extinguish them without cause was to invite misfortune or break the thread of home. You lean back against the wall and close your eyes, even without flame. The space feels warm in memory. The science of the hearth lives in combustion, the dance between fuel, heat, and oxygen. But the feeling of it lives elsewhere, in the body, in the rhythm of breath, in the comfort of return. It was here that people found rest after long days in fields or forests, where they dried their boots and poured tea and slowly let the weight of the world fall away. You picture a pot hanging over the fire, filled with lentils and roots, the steam rising in coils. You imagine a baby sleeping in a cradle beside it, the steady crackle of fire serving as lullaby. Even now, fire has a sound that makes you sleepy, a kind of low murmuring, like someone humming under their breath. You wonder if that's why it has remained, not just for heat, but for comfort. The walls hold marks, 2 soot smudges where hands once rested, notches where tools were hung, and in a far corner, the faint outline of a shelf still clings to the stone. Maybe it once held dried herbs, rosemary, thyme, a string of garlic bulbs curled like paper lanterns. Or maybe it held letters, folded and reread, kept close to the heart in cold months. You think about the voices that once echoed here, spoken words, yes, but also quieter ones, the sound of someone humming while they stirred a pot, the rustle of linen being folded, the sigh of a sleeping dog near the fire. All of them have faded, but not fully vanished. Old houses keep such things tucked deep inside their walls, like echoes pressed between layers of stone. You wonder about those voices, how they lived, how they told stories before books, before screens. Knowledge was carried in memory, passed from voice to voice, beside fires like this one. In those stories were weather, herbs, grief, stargazing, myths, dreams. The rhythm of it, the repetition, became a way to remember, a way to preserve what mattered when paper was rare and silence was long. You breathe slowly now, the stillness settling around you like wool. The hearth beside you may be cold, but its memory burns steadily. Even the dust here feels gentle, as though it has curled itself into sleep. Your lantern flickers slightly, casting long shadows across the floor. The fog waits at the door, respectfully. It knows this space holds something tender. You wonder how many places like this still exist. Stones holding memory, corners that once knew warmth, rooms that echo only when someone pauses long enough to listen. And you wonder if maybe the quietest place carry the deepest voices. The wind stirs again outside, just enough to tap against the shutter. You rise slowly, your body loose, your breath deep. You leave the hearth behind, but not forgotten. You step out into the waiting fog, carrying the hush with you. And as the mist folds around you once more, you begin to hear something. Not voices now, but a sound. Distant, slow, like the ringing of a bell, far across the hills, soft as sleep, and calling you forward. Fairy tales told by fog. The fog thickens, and strange shapes stir, shadows or stories. No one knows. Whispers speak of willow spirits, glowing lights that lead you astray. Old tales curl like steam in the dark, and you follow, not to be lost, but to be lulled. Every myth is a lullaby when you hear it slowly enough. The fog arrives like a secret exhale. You notice it first at your fingertips, the way the air becomes weightless and damp, wrapping around your skin like breath made visible. It gathers slowly, as if the sky is forgetting how to hold its thoughts. Soon the horizon disappears. Trees blur. Distance is not a fact anymore, only suggestion. The world closes its eyes. You keep walking. There's a path here somewhere, though it's gone soft and faded. Not gone exactly, just shy, just whispering, like something remembered. Through sleep, your steps are slow and deliberate. Your breath held like a match cupped in your palms. Every sound is hushed. Even your own presence feels quieter now, as if the fog is not just around you but within you. To be in fog is to be between things, between seeing and not seeing, between knowing and dreaming. And in this in-between, stories rise. You pause near a weathered gatepost, barely visible through the veil. Something flickers past a shape, a shimmer, a story. You don't chase it. In fog, you don't chase, you listen. Long ago, people told tales to explain the unseen. Willow, the wisps dancing over bogs. Blue-white flames said to lure travelers from the path. But maybe they were only methane-igniting gas released from decaying plants and warm earth. Still, It's easy to believe in fairies when light bends through mist and the world wears its dream face. You sit on a low stone wall, lichen slick and moss-soft, and you let the fog tell you what it knows. In the silence, you hear echoes not loud, not clear, just soft, as reeds brushing one another in a breeze. There are voices in this stillness. Science, too, has leaned close to fog. It names it a low-lying cloud, moisture suspended in air, droplets too small to fall, a visible breath of the planet, forming when the difference between dew point and air temperature narrows to almost nothing. Balance becomes beauty, just enough chill, just enough moisture, and suddenly the invisible reveals itself. But that doesn't make it less magical. In valleys and harbors, fog arrives like a tide dot in the Scottish Highlands. They call it Amhark, an enemy, the soul's mist. In Japan, it is Kiri, revered in poetry, a veil between this world and the spiritual. Sailors watch for it. Shepherds welcome it. Artists chase it. You notice how the light changes, how it scatters through fog, diffusing into softness. Edges vanish, colors mute. A lantern, even far away, becomes a glow without a source, just radiance floating in the gray. This is called me scattering tiny water droplets in the fog scatter all wavelengths of light equally, so everything glows the same pale hue, neither warm nor cold. It's what makes fog not just conceal but enchant. You walk again. Your steps are quiet on the damp ground. A bird calls. It bends and muffles. It carries sounds farther and closer at once. This is called acoustic impedance, where the air's density and moisture shift how sound waves move. No wonder people imagined ghost bells and phantom ships in fog. The ocean, especially, becomes another voice, one you can't place, one that doesn't explain itself. You pass a willow tree, half gold in autumn, half gone in cloud. The long branches trail like strands of memory. This is where legends grow, where fog clings to bark and whispers of women turned to trees, of lost children watched over by wood spirits, of lullabies taught by the leaves. Not facts, not lies, just gentle truths told in another language. In Ireland, the she ride through fog. In Wales, the tile-with teg lead dancers in circles of dew in the Appalachian hills. It's said the mist carries the dead's last words. Every place has its fog, and every fog has its fable. You pause again at a fork in the trail. There's no sign, only a sense. One path is dry and gravelly beneath your feet. The other is soft, loamy, leaf-strewn. You choose the softer one. In fog, intuition matters more than direction. Children once were taught not to speak loudly in fog, not for fear of being heard, but for fear of being answered. It's not danger the stories warned of, but entanglement. Say too much, and the mist might think you belong to it. You smile softly at the thought. There are worse fates than being held by quiet. And then, around a bend, you find it a small glen cradled in hush, a low stone ring, half lost to the fern. Maybe once a gathering place, maybe never. But the air here feels older, wiser. You sit in its center, legs tucked beneath you, and close your eyes. Not to sleep yet, but to listen more deeply. The fog thickens with memory. It has seen migrations, rituals, solstices, observed it, has watched villagers cross hills to trade firewood for bread. It has clung to the shoulders of monks and mystics, to shepherds singing softly to their flocks, two lovers who met in secret under twilight branches. Fog is not just weather, it is a keeper of warmth, held close to the earth, of light made gentle, of time slowed down, so stories can rise, and inside it, you remember what it means to be quiet, not just outside, but within. Thoughts drift like vapor, no longer needing shape, you let them go. You lie down in the mossy circle, the stones warming your back. The fog does not press, wraps, a shawl of sky, and as your body sinks towards stillness, your mind lifts like mist, weightless, wandering, somewhere in the distance. A flute begins, a single note, then two, not played by hands, played by wind, perhaps, through bone or red. You imagine a time when fog was a teacher, when people gathered their children close beyond, pointed to the hill, and said, "There, the fog moves like a woman's dress. There, the fog walks in twos. There, the fog knows your name." Science might name it advection or radiation fog, formed when warm air slips over cool land, or when nights are still and dew condenses into cloud. But to you, it will always feel like a story unfolding, one told without words, without end. You rise again, slowly. The fog does not lift it, lets you go, and the path ahead, once hidden, begins to shimmer. You don't see where it leads, but you follow, soothed, and as you walk, a new scent stirs in the air, not mist this time, but salt, faint, sharp, distant. The sea is near, and with it the voices of tide and time, voices that dream of compasses and stars. Bells, silence, and sleepy lies. Far-off bells ring slowly, muffled by miles and mist. They lead your thoughts to crossroads, where signposts point nowhere true in foggy hills. Stories lie gently to comfort the traveler, not to mislead. Let the softest lies carry you toward your deepest sleep. The fog hangs thick, slow-moving and silver, wrapping around your shoulders like an old shawl passed down from a grandmother you never met. It hushes the world. Even your footsteps seem softened, swallowed by moss and time. There is no path, but still you walk, drawn not by sight, but by sound. A bell tolls, faint and far away. Its voice is old, older than the trees, older than the trees, older than the names scratched into their trunks. One deep note, low and full, floating on the fog like a forgotten memory. It doesn't ring for warning or worship. It rings because it always has. Because some sounds are stitched into the silence. You follow it, not quickly, not with certainty, just the way sleep follows breath, naturally, slowly, without need. For reason, the bell tolls again, and the sound drifts toward you like something heavy held aloft in a dream. Along the way, a fence, half lost in lichen, leans as if tired from too many seasons. A wooden signpost points in all directions at once. The letters are blurred, not by weather, but by story, softened by the retelling of travelers who passed through long ago and needed a place to believe they were going. It's here, among crossroads and fog, that lies are gentlest, not the sharp lies meant to harm or deceive. No, these are sleepy lies, the kind whispered to children who can't sleep because the wind makes the branches tap against the glass, the kind spoken to the soul when it aches for meaning but can't yet find one. They're the stories we tell ourselves to soften reality, just enough to rest. You sit on a stone, the kind placed long ago to mark a boundary or a grave, or perhaps just because it felt like a good place to stop. The fog curls around your ankles, thick with the perfume of wet earth and damp leaves. Somewhere nearby, water trickles over stone, whispering the same sound it's whispered for centuries, a lullaby with no words. The bell tolls again, closer now. Science, too, once followed sound into the fog. Before satellites and GPS, mariners listened. Bells and horns, fog signals, placed along coasts to warn of cliffs and rocky shores. Each had a rhythm, a pattern, 3 short blasts, a long one, a pause, a whim rich in tones. Ships would chart their way by ear, by memory, by trust. In the thickest fog, sound was safer than sight. And so, too, we chart our sleep, not by logic, but by rhythm. The brain, when easing into slumber, becomes attuned to slow, rhythmic cues. A heartbeat, a metronomic voice, the low toll of a bell. These patterns soothe the amygdala, the ancient part of your brain that watches for danger and signals instead that it's time to drift. You wonder who first rang the bell that still sounds. Now, perhaps it was a monk in a weathered robe, lighting a lantern before dawn, or a lighthouse keeper tending fire in the tower while fog swallowed the sea. Maybe it was no one. Maybe the bell rings itself, dreaming of purpose in an age that has forgotten its need. The fog has its own memory, its own myths in old villages. Bells were once believed to scatter spirits, their sound a shield. A bell rung at dawn would drive away lingering dreams. A bell at dusk would invite loved ones home. In some places, foghorns were called sea prayers, sounding across the water in hope that someone would answer back. You lie down in the grass beside the stone. Dampness kisses your sleeve, but it doesn't chill you. It feels grounding, like the earth is tugging you gently closer, asking nothing, offering everything above you. The fog has thickened so much that the sky has no color, just depthless softness. You wonder if a lie can be a kindness. Sleep itself is a sort of lie, isn't it? A story the brain tells to keep itself from noticing the dark, to make peace with unknowing, to trust that tomorrow will come even when we cannot see it. In the 19th century, scientists studied fog by walking into it. They measured visibility, counted steps between known objects. In London, fogs were thick with coal soot, the famous pea soupers that turned day into night. But even those, dangerous and dense, gave rise to myths, ghost stories, lamplighters who vanished mid-stride, horses that returned to their stables without riders. Danger always stirs story. But in sleep, the stories soften. Here, in this quiet hollow, the fog holds no threat. It's a blanket, a veil that protects rather than conceals. You're not meant to find your way tonight. You're meant to rest. The bell tolls once more, then silence, but not empty silence. It's full of dew collecting on branches, of a fox curling into its tail, of breath becoming slow and shallow, the kind of silence that listens, the kind that lets you unspool slowly, thought by thought, until you become part of the hush. The stories told here are not meant to be remembered. They are meant to be felt, like lullabies with no lyrics, like promises you don't have to keep. Eyes drift closed. You wonder if perhaps, beyond this fog, there is no path at all, only more stories, soft and untrue in all the right ways, only more places to rest. Where the lantern grows dim. At the top of the last hill, your lantern flickers low, but light isn't needed anymore. The fog has accepted you as one of its own. You lie down in the moss, where every step, every tale has led. Let sleep take you now, where stories never end, they only deepen. The lantern in your hand has burned soft and small, not out, not yet, but close. It hums like a memory between your fingers, its flame no longer trying to pierce the dark, only to warm the space around it. The fog welcomes you now, not as a stranger, not as a traveler, but as something gentler, a drifting thing among other drifting things. It parts for you, not in grand gesture, but with the tender hush of moss beneath bare feet. Here, at the top of the final hill, the world seems to pause. No birdsong, no rustling leaves, only the pulse of the earth underfoot and the faint breath of something sleeping just beneath the soil. Perhaps the forest itself. Dreaming through its roots, you settle into the quiet, not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of completion. Everything has already been said, by the trees, by the bells, by the fog's whispering tales, and now you are held in the hush between stories. In this stillness, your thoughts soften. The need to understand fades. What lies beyond the fog doesn't matter. What lies beneath you, the damp ground, the delicate roots, the woven paths of fungi and rain-fed stones, is enough. Here, truth becomes something pliable, like cloth soaked in moonlight. The questions that once stirred you into motion, where am I going? What am I meant to see? No longer press forward. The fog has become your mirror, and in it your shape blurs, then belongs. You remember, distantly, the science of these mists. How fog forms when warm, moist air cools quickly. How invisible vapor condenses into droplets suspended in the air. How it clings to the contours of the land like breath on glass. But here, it doesn't feel like a phenomenon. It feels like a threshold, as if each tiny droplet carries a memory, not yours, not anyone's, but something older, slower, the kind of memory water keeps when it has flowed through mountain and moss, seen glacial sky and golden dune. Your lantern flickers again, a soft, sympathetic gesture, as if to say, "You don't need me anymore." You set it gently beside you, on a stone worn smooth by centuries of weather. And the darkness that follows isn't frightening, it's soft, like the inside of a closed eye, or the space between one heartbeat and the next. Somewhere nearby, a drip of water, then another. Fog collects on branch tips and falls in lazy rhythm, like time itself has slowed to a gentle drip. You begin to listen for the spaces between the drops. There's something ancient about the quiet here, not old in years, but in rhythm, as if this place has waited patiently for someone to arrive without the need for direction, for someone who no longer asks the fog to lift. You lie back. The moss receives you kindly, not as a guest, but as something returned. Its texture is springy, fragrant, rich, with tiny lives, spores, filaments, hidden green hearts, all growing in stillness. A forest beneath a forest, teaching the world how to hold softness. Above you, the fog thickens into sky. No stars, no moon, only the slow swirl of shadow and vapor, a galaxy of gray made intimate. This too is science. The particles in fog scatter light differently than rain or cloud. They make the world appear gentler, more diffuse. Shadows vanish, lines soften. Your surroundings become watercolor, and inside this watercolor world, you begin to feel less solid yourself. Not in a frightening way, in a freeing one. Your edges no longer need to hold. You are a breath inside a breath, a story inside a sigh. You recall how animals use fog as shelter. Deer bed down when it rolls in. Owls grow still in the trees, feathers damp but undisturbed. Even predators pause, their senses dimmed, not by fear, but by reverence. Perhaps this is what rest means in nature, not an absence of motion, but a surrender to the conditions around you. Fog becomes the lullaby, moss the cradle, and you, just another part of the hush dot. You close your eyes, but you're not falling asleep, not yet. You're steeping dot like tea in still water. Your thoughts begin to bloom softly. Images stir. The bell that tolled through mist, the willow that bent like memory, the path that never asked where it ended. Each memory is softened now, not in detail, but in weight. What was once sharp becomes round. What was once uncertain becomes gentle. What was once lost becomes not found. Exactly, but no longer needing to be found. The fog has done what stories often do, disguised the truth in myth so the mind could rest while the heart understood. In fairy tales, the forest hides the lesson in shadow and song. In science, the world hides its wonder in fog and fungi. And you have walked the line between both. You have listened to bells and wind, myths and mycelium. You have followed the scent of damp bark and the flicker of imagined footsteps, not to chase anything, but to soften everything. Now your breath deepens, not as a decision, but as an instinct. You are preparing to become quiet, not just in body, but in story. Your own narrative, too, begins to settle, like sediment in clear water. The lantern is out, but you don't need to see anymore. Everything that mattered has already found you, and still, even in this full quiet, not a sound, but a question, because sleep, like fog, always leaves one thread undone. one path unopened. And as you drift into the moss, you wonder gently what lies in the silence between one dream and the next. The lantern has faded, but its warmth still lingers. Let your breath stay slow, your thoughts like petals falling in the dark. If you are still awake, you don't need to be. This moment is for rest, for stillness, for sleep. Let the story carry you, even as its voice fades, even as the night grows deeper. Good night from whispers of the night, where the dream never truly ends.